Congress could pass a statute banning partisan gerrymandering, requiring the use of commissions. And you're seeing some of the Republican members of Congress who are being gerrymandered out of their seats all of a sudden now wanting to join with Democrats in passing national redistricting reform. I don't think that's going to happen with a Republican House. There aren't enough Republicans. I don't think it's going to happen when Donald Trump is president. But
so Proposition 50, as you mentioned, enacts a democratic gerrymandering of California House districts in response to the Republican gerrymandering in Texas. It launched a kind of an arms race of redistricting across the country. And some a number of analysts have said, by the time all the dust is settled on this, it's going to advantage Republicans because Democratic states beforehand were typically more gerrymandered than Republican states just to start. And so there's more Republican seats to pick up if everybody does this. And that what happened with Trump pushing Texas to do it, but the Democrats lose. Now, do you think that there may be a Democratic wave in the midterms that sort of overcomes that? Or do you take issue with that narrative that Republicans end up with more gerrymandered seats at the end of the day?
well, you're right that there's more opportunities for Republicans to gerrymander, in part because there are more states where Republicans control all the levers of government, or in a place like North Carolina, which has a Democratic governor, their state law says that only the legislature, that called the General Assembly there, gets to draw the district lines. And they went from North Carolina's a kind of a 50-50 state, Democratic, Republican. They had a 10-4 congressional district, 10 Republicans to 4 Democrats, and now they've made it, or tried to make it, 11-3. So I don't think that this Prop 50 is the last shoe to drop. There are still other states that are being pushed to district. But what I thought was interesting is the large amount of pushback that's coming from some Republicans. So Trump and Vance have been leaning on Indiana Republicans to get rid of a district. So far, to no avail. In Kansas, just yesterday, the Republican legislature was basically giving up on trying to come up with a new plan to get around a Democratic governor. So there are all kinds of pushes. In the end, if Texas and California cancel out each other, it could be that overall Republicans net 7 or 8 seats that they otherwise couldn't have gotten. Now, the margin in the House is very, very small, but we've seen wave elections as many as 40 seats or more changing from one party to the other. The other thing is, if you are a Republican, you wake up today and you're being asked to redistrict to make your district less safe, to try and create another Republican seat in the state, well, that could be dangerous because, a Trump +5 district, where the Trump won by 5 points, that's not really safe for Republicans now if there's a wave election. And so that may put some brakes on things. So I think in the end, most analyses I've seen say that if we see the states we expect to see, maybe Illinois, maybe Maryland, maybe Florida, do this, there could be some gains for Republicans, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be enough to keep control of the House in Republican hands.
Hi, I'm Pat Morrison, one of the hosts of America at a Crossroads. If you like this video, don't just watch. Head over to our website where you can subscribe for early access to new programs, see our upcoming schedules, and connect directly with our guests in our weekly live streams. Thank you for watching.
Well, and especially as you're saying, typically midterms benefit the party that's out of the White House, and that, of course, is Democrats in 2026. I want to go back to Proposition 50 because technically, under the measure, the citizen independent redistricting would return with the data from the 2030 census. But I just wonder, short of a national movement to create independent redistricting across the country, would Democrats, who will presumably still be in the majority 5 years from now, would they support going back to independent citizens redistricting, or will they look to pass another measure just like 50 that would extend the partisan gerrymandering further? I wonder if the days of independent citizen redistricting are gone, not just for 5 years, but well beyond that.
Well, I think in answering that, let's talk about how we got here. How we got here is that in 2019, the United States Supreme Court said, we're not going to police partisan gerrymandering as violating the Constitution. And that was kind of a off to the races moment for states to engage in more partisan gerrymandering. Before that, it was unclear if there were limits on partisan gerrymandering. So a race to the bottom for sure. And the initiative, the two initiatives that were passed in California, not only applied to Congress, but to the state legislature. That part has not been put on hold. So we still have independent redistricting for that. But if the situation remains the same, would Democrats try and put another measure on the ballot if they could to try to maybe extend it? I think that's definitely possible. The solution here is going to have to come from Congress. So in the Constitution, in Article 1, Section 4, it says that Congress can make or alter any state rules related to congressional elections. This is the reason already why every district that's for Congress has to be a single member district. We can't have larger districts that elect multiple members, something that some people have advocated as an election reform. Can't do that because Congress passed a statute saying you can't do that. Congress passed a statute banning partisan gerrymandering, requiring the use of commissions. And you're seeing some of the Republican members of Congress who are being gerrymandered out of their seats, all of a sudden now wanting to join with Democrats in passing national redistricting reform. I don't think that's going to happen with a Republican House. There aren't enough Republicans. I don't think it's going to happen when Donald Trump is president. But if Democrats take back control of both houses of Congress and the presidency in 2028, going into 2029, the big question is going to be, are Democrats going to blow up the filibuster for election reform? That's something I've advocated for a long time. I wrote about that back in 2018 when Democrats actually had the chance to pass something like the For the People Act. And they didn't because Joe Manchin and Senator Sinema and Christensen are not willing to do that.
I'm going to be back with you next week along with Janice, Mel, and Zev, as I'll be talking with former CIA officer Stephen Cash. He heads the nonprofit advocacy group, The Steady State. It's made up of former U.S. intelligence veterans who were opposed to President Trump's actions. We'll be with you again. That's 5 o'clock Pacific time next Wednesday right here for America at a Crossroads. Make sure you make your reservation and sign up to join us with the link. Thank you so much. Have a terrific rest of your evening.